My name is Benton Stokes. I'm a former fundamentalist, post-evangelical worship leader, and songwriter. I enjoy wry Manhattans, roller coasters, and road trips, just not all at the same time.
I'm Elane O'Rourke, and I'm a teacher, an author, and a spiritual coach. I was a philosophy professor and a liberal pastor in a couple of former lives, and these days, I love aha moments and not-so-dry martinis.
We have conversations about life and God with a queer perspective, over cocktails, like you. This is Cocktail Theology. Okay, I am really excited about this cocktail. I haven't tried it yet. Have you tried yours yet?
I have not.
It's got a very highfalutin name.
I love highfalutin.
The Elixir Tropicale.
Ooh,
I know.
Elixir Tropicale.
Right? Let's try it.
Okay. I like the mint.
Yeah.
I like the rum.
Yeah.
What else is in here?
So it has orgeat syrup,
Okay.
which is like derived from almonds, I think. Lime, mint, Angostura bitters, a little bit of Luxardo Maraschino.
Okay. So it's got a tiki vibe.
It's definitely got a tiki vibe.
Because
yes.
the orgeat.
The orgeat and the rum. We have Zaya, which
Right.
is a delicious rum.
Yeah.
There's just be called for like a white rum, but I really like this rum.
Yeah, well, that Zaya. I really love the Zaya anyway. Ooh, we've got to do our rum tasting soon, actually, come to think of it. Yeah, no, I like this. I like this. It's
I like this too.
But summery, but not too light. Like, I think with silver rum, it would be just kind of light.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but then why not just make a mojito? Or
Yeah,
why
let's
not,
just
you
have
know?
some depth to it, though.
Yeah, I like it.
There's a lot going on here.
I like it
In a
very
good way, though.
For sure, for sure. Okay. So, what was the name again? The
Elixir Tropicale.
Okay.
It came from Difford's Guide.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
But it's good.
We're allowed to name
would
things
do
funny
this again.
things. I mean, I can't really say much given some of the names I've given drinks. So, anyway, so what are we talking about tonight, my friend?
So Sunday was Pentecost.
Yes,
We like Pentecost.
we do like Pentecost.
Pentecost,
We like the Holy Spirit.
well, we do. And Pentecost is when the Holy Spirit made a very demonstrative entrance before the apostles and a crowd that had gathered.
It was like the Holy Spirit Met Gala.
Yeah, right. It was. It kind of was. Kind of was. You and I were having a conversation the other day. I posed the question, I think, when we were talking, what would it look like if the Holy Spirit showed up today?
Right.
What would it look like if she showed up in, say, Los Angeles right now? What would that look like if there were a new Pentecost? Now, of course, we fully believe and understand that the Holy Spirit's everywhere all the time.
That's an important point, though. I think let's not just kind of toss that.
Yeah,
one out.
I don't want to gloss that over. I do want to point that out that the Holy Spirit is everywhere all the time.
Right.
So it's not like she's standing back waiting to be beckoned or invited, although we do believe that the Holy Spirit doesn't impose herself on somebody that doesn't want to receive whatever it is she's got for them.
Yes.
Whether it's a revelation or just whatever it is.
A nudge.
A nudge, right. But what would it look like if there were a crowd of people gathered somewhere, we'll say Los Angeles because Los Angeles is a tumultuous place right now, and people could understand each other?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that last bit you said is an incredibly important piece of this, right? So I know our Pentecostal friends understand that event in Jerusalem as the apostles speaking in a heavenly language. And that at other times when the Spirit is mentioned falling on someone, the understanding is that the person then speaks a heavenly language. There's nothing in the Bible to suggest that, actually.
Yeah.
What is suggested is that the apostles begin to speak in languages recognizable by the people who speak them.
Yes.
Even though they don't themselves speak that language.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I'm teasing that out a bit because I think it's really pertinent to what you're talking about. So if what was happening there was the Holy Spirit was empowering the apostles to speak in languages they did not ordinarily speak so that other people could understand them. That's the question. What would it look like for if the Holy Spirit were to do the same thing in our world now that is so divided, and we have such a challenge listening to each other, understanding each other. We wind up using the exact same words in completely different ways.
Right.
What would it look like for the Holy Spirit to empower people to speak in languages that are not normally theirs and then be understood?
Right.
And the reason I'm really kind of pulling that apart is I think a lot of times when we think about people speaking different languages, we think Swahili and Spanish. But that's not the problem, is it?
No.
The problem is that all of us who are speaking English, for example, we don't understand each other.
No.
We don't understand each other's words. We don't understand each other's meaning. We come at it from completely different directions, and it almost doesn't matter what we're talking about.
Right.
I mean, we can have conversations about what pizza is,
right,
and get all up in our stuff because we have very different views of what pizza is.
Yes.
And pizza is a heck of a lot easier than peace. So that's what it's really about, right?
Yes.
Another thing about your description struck me. And it's something we do with this passage from Acts about the Pentecost, is we tend to say everyone. Everyone in the upper room spoke in a particular way. Everyone who was listening, everyone who heard, understood. Everyone. But the Bible's really clear that there were plenty of people who either didn't understand or sneered at it, but didn't respond.
Right, the ones that were standing around saying, "Are they drunk?"
right, or just heard it and went, they heard, let's say they were from Egypt, they heard these Galilean apostles speaking in Egyptian and went, well, that's weird, and kept moving.
And kept going.
Yeah. Because that's what happened,
sure.
Right? There were plenty of people doing that.
Right.
And it's not clear from the description that every single person in the upper room was speaking another language.
That is true, yeah.
Okay. So, would it be necessary to see somehow everyone involved in that situation see each other as total human beings for us to discern the Holy Spirit was at work?
No.
Okay. Why?
I think that, for instance, if a Marine is moving to subdue a migrant, we'll say, and the Marine in that moment sees this person as not someone to be subdued, but someone to respect.
Okay.
I'm not making the assumption that Marines and National Guard people don't already see these people as people.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
They're there to do a job.
Right.
That does not mean that they see these people as enemies.
Correct.
They're just there to do this job.
Correct.
And I guess what I'm saying is at some point maybe 1 to 12, 100 of these troops choose instead not to subdue their intended target or victim or whatever, and instead chooses to, I don't know, give them a hug or something like that. That would be super spiritual, like God reaching into a situation, right?
Okay.
But something that absurd, right? Something that obviously weird,
Right.
and obviously beyond where we are right now.
Okay.
Like God reaching into our current mess and demonstrating that kind of love. I don't know.
Okay. No, but let's start there. I think that's a good image because it's one that we can all sort of picture.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that God usually works that way. But here's what I think. This is where I get into trouble with this kind of question. It's not a bad question, but I think it is much more likely that the Holy Spirit is speaking to every single person there, saying, this is a fully human person in front of you. This is a fully human person in front of you. And there are levels of whether people are listening to that at all.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay? So it might not be that something that dramatic happens. It might be that, just staying with the National Guard, let's stay with the Marines for a minute, because that's just such a picture. It might be that a Marine who is going to break up something that's happening sees someone who has fallen, hears the Holy Spirit, lifts them up, and then arrests them.
Okay.
So there's something about the Holy Spirit has to be working with us as who we are for that to happen. Okay?
Yeah, I see that.
So going back to the Pentecost moment, it's not weird that Peter's the first one to shoot off his mouth.
No, it's not weird.
Right? Because that's right up Peter's alley.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that Peter wasn't moved by the Holy Spirit, but that's Peter's personality. That's what he's going to do, is he's going to just speak out of turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Whereas somebody else in that room who wasn't that person might have been moved by the Holy Spirit to truly just witness all of it. So if someone in that crowd fulfilling any of the roles that we've described is open to the movement of the Holy Spirit to see the full humanity of other people, there is no guaranteed outcome of what that's going to be.
Right.
And we won't necessarily notice it.
No,
because
we
it doesn't have to be dramatic,
right? Right. Yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, if the whole world is going to see, then it's going to be something that crazy. Now, do I think the Holy Spirit is moving in those kinds of moments? Absolutely. And I'm sure that the situation you described, there's a good chance something like that is happening.
Yes.
Right? Even if it happens once.
Right.
So yes, I completely agree. I think that the Holy Spirit meets us where we are and doesn't turn us into something else to work through us, in us, whatever.
Right.
She meets us where we are, and she empowers us to be who we are in that moment, but maybe just the best of who we are, or maybe just the God seed that's in us actually just bursts wide open in those kinds of moments.
I hear you. I think I have a different view.
Okay.
I think that is the Holy Spirit's aim always. I think most of us are unprepared for that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's the problem, right?
Yes.
The problem is not that the Holy Spirit isn't at work. The problem is most of us are well trained to not pay any attention to her at all.
Right.
So we get a nudge to give someone begging on the street money, and we ignore it.
Yeah.
Even if it's a Holy Spirit nudge. We get a nudge to look at the person who disagrees with us differently for a moment and really try to see the life experience that their view's coming out of. We get that, just that inkling go, no.
Right.
If I'm a Marine and I've been given my job, and again, taking a minor thing, lifting somebody up, I get the nudge from the Holy Spirit to do that. I have to be open to taking that nudge.
Yes, you do. Absolutely, yes.
That's the problem with this whole image of the Holy Spirit, of our looking for the Holy Spirit to be involved. Because the Holy Spirit is not a bully.
Never.
The Holy Spirit does not make us do something we wouldn't do.
Right.
The Holy Spirit does not pick up my hand, pick up a daisy and put it into the gun, right? Which is a very famous picture from the 1960s, right? That's not what the Holy Spirit does.
Right.
The Holy Spirit nudges, whispers, suggests, empowers.
Yes. Yeah.
But we are fully capable of saying no. We
Yeah.
are fully capable of not hearing the Holy Spirit doing that. We are fully capable of being completely insensitive to what she's doing.
Right.
So one of the reasons I want to point out that the migrants are not victims is we aren't either.
No,
right?
no, we're not.
So it isn't like the Holy Spirit says, okay, you're going to do something that you are not prepared to do that is totally out of your character. That's not what happens.
No.
The challenge in situations like these is that it isn't like, well, we don't know who or how many of the people there are in fact listening.
Right.
Or how many people listening to us are listening for the Holy Spirit. Or when we are listening for the Holy Spirit. That's the challenge of trying to figure out whether the Holy Spirit's involved. Because the Holy Spirit could be shouting in the streets. It's like wisdom in Proverbs 8, right? The Holy Spirit could be shouting in the streets and everybody going, la, 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 la.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah, I guess where I started with all of this was comparing the day of Pentecost to something that might happen in LA today. Mm-hmm. And I do think that there were people there caught very unaware of what was about to happen. And I do think that the Holy Spirit was moving in and through people in ways that they didn't understand at the time.
Yes.
Or maybe never understood. I don't know. In that sense, it was a very kind of supernatural event. Now, I don't think the Holy Spirit works that way most of the time. Mm-hmm. You know, our Pentecostal friends, as you mentioned, do. I mean, they believe the Holy Spirit works that way often. Mm-hmm. I personally haven't experienced that. Mm-hmm. But I do think that if the Holy Spirit were to show up like that, people would be caught unaware. I do think that in our daily interactions with people and just the way we talk to ourselves even, we do ignore what the Holy Spirit is saying to us all the time.
Yeah.
And because she doesn't yell and she's not going to force our hand or force us to do something we don't want to do, often because we're ignoring her, something amazing doesn't happen.
Right.
And that's the sad thing, is that we do. We ignore her more often than we don't.
Okay. So let's try a different angle on this. Suppose in a situation like this that is highly emotional, fired up, complicated, where people are in fact playing out roles. Suppose there were a group of people, small group, who really prepared themselves with prayer and meditation, who went in to the situation, not necessarily causing a fuss, not necessarily doing anything except listening for the Holy Spirit and working to see people.
Yeah.
Suppose they, I'm making this up, brought bottles of water for everyone they saw and just start handing out bottles of water. This is hard.
Yeah.
Whether you're wearing riot gear or you're wearing flip-flops, what you're doing is hard.
Yeah.
What would it be to be ministering functionally with people who are just exhausted and despairing? Like, how much would that change the dynamic of the situation, even for a small group of people? See, I think that's where we can actually be part of the Holy Spirit showing up.
Yes. I love that. Yeah.
That's how we do that. Mm-hmm. And I admit that I have trouble saying, oh, I am seeing the Holy Spirit showing up in a particular thing if I'm not there. Because, we get pictures. What we get is videos of reporters getting shot with rubber bullets. We don't get videos of people stopping and saying, just seeing the person in front of them and turning and doing something else. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that's where we, as people who are trying to follow Jesus, who are listening for the Holy Spirit, can actually be witnesses to the power of the Holy Spirit.
Right.
It's by preparing to listen and to go into a situation with as much love and vulnerability as we can.
I love that.
I think that's how we would know from the outside whether the Holy Spirit was showing up. It's whether people chose to go into the whole situation with a different attitude and a different purpose.
Right.
Not to either defend the migrants or to avoid being deported or to stop a riot or whatever, but instead went in for the purpose of listening for the voice of the Holy Spirit and being kind and giving succor to people who are there. That, to me, would be a witness of the movement of the Holy Spirit.
I completely agree. Yeah, I love that. Listeners, what do you think? We would love to hear your thoughts on the Holy Spirit. I know that we have a wide and diverse audience, and some folks are very familiar with the charismatic movement and the ways that they've experienced the Holy Spirit in worship and in personal worship too. We'd love to hear from you. We'd also love to hear from people who are like, what are they talking about? That sounds like a bunch of woo, you know. And
Hocus
I know,
pocus.
right. And I know we have people that listen that probably feel that way. We'd love to hear from you too.
Yes, please.
Cocktailtheology.com is where we are. That's where we always are. Give us questions, give us topics to talk about, give us ideas for cocktails. We love hearing from you.
Absolutely. And actually, give us corrections. I'm going to talk about this another time, but we got an email this week correcting us on something we'd said.
Yep.
And I so appreciated that. And it's happened before. And every time somebody does that, I learn something. It's awesome.
It's awesome.
So please correct us.
Yeah, reach out. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Funny how the view can change, how life just seems to rearrange itself. No matter what it was, I don't know how it goes, but look, moving on feels pretty good. Moving on feels pretty good.
If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like and hit subscribe wherever you're listening right now. We welcome your comments, questions, and ideas for conversations and for cocktails. Please get in touch with us at our website, cocktailtheology.com. Cocktail Theology is a production of SFS. Our theme song is Moving On Feels Pretty Good, recorded by yours truly, Benton Stokes. You can find my music wherever you stream your favorite artists. Join us next Thursday for another new episode.